Hello class, this is Dr. Paz and I just finished the grading for our 3-2, our first milestone, and I wanted to go over some just helpful tips for future submissions and just some general feedback. Here you see my screen and you'll see the Turnitin reports. You'll notice that this 2% here is in green, the 33% is in yellow, and the 61% is in like a reddish or orange. So basically you would like the Turnitin report to be less than 30%, preferably under 30% is what we're looking for in graduate work, which basically means that you have properly cited or paraphrased, and then everything is good. Anything above 30%, you'll see it in a yellow. That's a little cautionary. You want to make sure that you review your submission and go back and make sure that that information from other sources are truly cited and that you are using direct quotes or paraphrasing. Anything above 50%, this 61% is completely unacceptable. That suggests plagiarism, or it suggests that you're possibly missing some citations or that you've possibly copied verbatim but didn't directly quote. So make sure that your Turnitin reports are under 30%. Now I'd like to go over the rubric and give you some pointers for future submissions. So in this case, most of you did a fabulous job of submitting your papers in APA style and using headings for each of these areas. So you should have had a heading for, audit process, you should have had a heading for field work, and you should have had a heading for testing. So that's fantastic. Then in the audit process, most of you did a fabulous job of describing the audit process and all of the steps. Make sure that if you're detailing steps, you are using the proper citation. If you're detailing independence or understanding the business is part of the audit process, that should come from the PCAOB. Keep in mind that is our regulatory body. And the piece that most people did not do is incorporating analytical procedures for selected business transactions. Now, we are well aware that analytical procedures is the basis of comparing the financial statements, the income statement, balance sheet, or statement of cash flows, and year over year, and any percent changes that would be investigated. So in this case, you wanted to provide a specific example. Probably the most relevant would be cash and revenue, as the assignment details in the rubric later on that those as high risk business transactions. So that's the piece that was a bit missing. Then in the field work, most of you understood that field work is the process in which we, the external auditors or even internal auditors, actually go to the client site, and we are in the client site performing our testing. So we obviously have to do our analytical procedures and our audit planning, and then we decide at that audit planning phase what the higher risk transactions might be, and the areas or business cycles such as sales, payables, inventory, that we're going to actually look further into during our field work. And the key here was you needed to review the high-risk transactions. So some specificity as to cash and revenue were needed here. And then lastly, you were to create a test to assess appropriate assertions for these high-risk business transactions. So keep in mind that we have 3 types of tests, right? We have a test of internal controls, and then we have 2 types of substantive testing. Tests of account balances and tests of transactions. So that's what you needed to state here. And note that we are testing the assertions of completeness, disclosure, valuation, etc. So our substantive testing, which could be basically we do a reasonableness test for the account balance, or we're actually doing a substantiative test of transactions where you're actually selecting a sample of X number of transactions to ensure that they're recorded correctly. So that's what should have been done at this phase. So I hope this helps a little bit. Thanks.